Hi everyone, and welcome to this project for Roben-Marie Smith, and I am using her digital downloads of her new Art Pops line for the 100 days. So I wanted to do something a little bit different for this project, and because it was a digital download, it means that you can basically print your downloads onto anything. So I sat and thought, okay, what's something really unusual that I could print it onto rather than just printing it onto paper and then using it that way. So I found this printable canvas that I got from the discount store. So I bought it in a pack that you're meant to kind of print a canvas picture on and then frame it. So instead of doing it with that, I actually printed it onto the download onto the fabric here. So I have got two. So this one turned out a little bit different because the printer didn't quite line up on the first round, so I kind of have a double layer on this particular card, but I actually quite like it. So I have this card, these two cards here. I also have a little extra bit here again where the printer didn't quite line up properly, and then I have this one here. So the fabric canvas that it's printed on is actually quite stiff, so it'll be really nice. I think it would be really nice to kind of fray the edges and stuff, so I'm going to use some hand stitching, and I have got my hexagon cutting tool here. This is like for quilting, so it shows you all of the different sizes of hexagons to print out, so it gives you a really good guide. So I'm going to cut out some hexagons of the fabric here, and I'm going to attach them onto this large tag that I have. So we're going to do some hand stitching, probably start off with some collage in the background. I'm not too sure, I'm just going to kind of wing it once I've cut out these, and we'll see how it looks. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll talk to you at the end. I really love how it's turned out. And now I'm going to start sewing on the pieces of the canvas that I have cut out. So what I'm going to do to secure them on the back before I start stitching into them, the stitching won't necessarily be the main thing holding them onto the page, but I just wanted to show you guys what I'm doing first. I'm going to use just some double-sided tape to hold them in place, but when you're stitching into paper, by hand especially, and definitely by machine, you need to be really careful what you're stitching through and how you would stitch the fabric on. Now if you have a different type of fabric, you can just use a pin perhaps and just go ahead and straight sewing it. This is quite a thick fabric, and as I said, I want to have my stitches kind of random all over the place, so I need to secure it onto the page first. So what I'm going to use, as I said, is double-sided tape, but I'm going to make sure that when I'm sticking the double-sided tape, all I'm going to do is just kind of put a piece in the middle here, a small piece, just to adhere it. And the reason for that is I don't want my needle to go through this double-sided tape, because what it does is it leaves a residue on your needle and it gets really, really sticky. So learn from my mistakes and don't do that. Another thing that I'm going to be using when I have these all stuck down and I'm going to start sewing, I'm going to use a paper piercer. So this is my paper piercer that I have. It's sharp, it's quite long, and I find it very good, especially for digging through thick layers such as this or the card. It's going to be doubly thick once I stick this on. So it's really important that we are able to get our needle easily through. So by pre-piercing the holes, it will make it a lot easier for your needle to pop through, and it won't be much easier on your hands as well. So I would definitely recommend either getting a paper piercer, or you could use a pin as well, something that has a flat head so that you're not kind of hurting your hand as you go through. You could even pop a needle into like a cork and use that to stick it through, but just try and get something that will pierce a hole through it so that you don't have to pierce the first hole with your needle. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and get it done and get these stuck onto here, and then we'll see what colours and things we're going to be using for our threads. Okay, so a couple of days and a manicure later, I am going to finish off stitching onto the tag here. So I have got my pokey tool here, or paper piercer, or whatever you want to call it, but just mind yourself at home, kids, because this thing's sharp. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to punch some holes onto the tag so that I've got a nice clean hole for my needle to go through. I picked up some black and some white embroidery floss and just a regular old embroidery needle. Now I'm probably going to be using 3 strands of the floss because I really wanted to be able to stand out and to be quite chunky. Any more than that, it can be really quite hard to go through the eye of a regular needle, so just keep that in mind if you're going to be sewing with a different type of thread. So we'll go ahead and get started. I've no plan really for how the stitches are going to go. I might do some kind of X's, might do some zigzags, might just do some straight stitch. I'm just going to mix it up and play about with it. So talk to you later.